When we talk to companies about their potential for clarity of mind, one of the questions that come up is, will this help me sleep? Or sometimes people say, well, if this helps me sleep better, it'll be a miracle. And this indicates how poorly we understand why we sleep and why we don't sleep. And the question I want you to ask yourself is, what's keeping you awake? So I'm making the assumption that our bodies, left to their own devices, would sleep when they needed to sleep. And you can see that in very young kids. So when my kids when they were younger and they'd say to me, I don't know how to go to sleep, I say, well, don't worry about it. You just lie still. Because you know at some point they're going to be asleep and there's nothing they can do about it. But they also point out another good point, which is none of us know how to go to sleep because it's an automatic process. Our bodies sleep when they need to sleep. But then how come so much of us have such a hard time sleeping so much of the time? It's very normal. We can all relate to it. We've all experienced it. And again, I want you to ask yourself, what do you think is keeping you up? Now, if you look at it, it's some sort of feeling of agitation or discomfort or energy. And where do you think that's coming from? That's coming from your thinking. That we are literally keeping ourselves awake with our thinking. And then you ask yourself, who's doing that thinking? You know, when you want to see where something's plugged in, you follow the wire. Is this plugged in or not? Will you follow your thinking down? And there's a wire that leads directly to you. Now, I know most people have the experience that their mind is thinking on their own or that they can't stop themselves thinking. But let's leave that aside. That's not relevant now. Don't jump ahead. First thing you have to consider is that but for the thinking that you are doing, there would be nothing keeping you awake. We keep ourselves awake with our thinking. And the problem isn't that we have thought, it's that we get wrapped up in it. Like sometimes I'll go to bed and I'll lie and I'll be relaxed and within 10 minutes I am awake. Because I started thinking about something. And 10 minutes into thinking about it, I am wide awake, I'm engaged, I'm up. Now the key problem for thought, the first key problem for thought and sleeping is that we don't realize it's our own thinking waking us up. That's number one. The second key problem is we didn't realize that thinking doesn't think itself. That we're the one doing it. And if we weren't doing it, we would fall asleep when we needed to fall asleep. So when we work with individual executives and teams, and they get a feel for this, that they don't need to be doing the thinking they're doing, and they see it, they automatically start to settle down and they report that their sleep improves. Because there's nothing getting in the way of them and how tired they are. And then you ask yourself, why am I doing all that thinking? And behind that is the idea most of us believe the more we think about things, the better we'll be able to understand and deal with them. Now, we don't have time to go into that in detail. I just want you to consider that that's not true. Let's at least say it's not true at midnight. If you're weighing up between sleeping and thinking about your problems, there must be some times where sleeping is what you're looking for. And you don't need to stop thinking. That's a mistake too. So trying to stop yourself thinking leads you to think more, usually. You just need to realize that you can have thought and not be wrapped up in it. So once you realize if you want to go to sleep, you kind of have to keep the idea that your thinking is not really relevant. Now, I don't know that you can get what you need out of such a small talk on this topic, but I do think it's helpful to see that but for our thinking, we sleep. There's nothing keeping us up. It's not a big mystery. And that our observations with hundreds and thousands of clients is, as their thinking starts to slow down, as they start to understand state of mind and the principles behind it, it stops making sense to do the amount of thinking that we're doing. Everybody's doing too much thinking. And as that happens, they start to sleep. So I have clients that say, if I sleep more, it's a miracle. And lo and behold, they come back and say, oh, I slept like a baby. Because all the energy they were putting into their thinking and their rumination and their worrying and their analyzing stopped making as much sense. So there's nothing keeping them up.